Millions of men go through life in misery and poverty because they lack a sound plan through which to accumulate the fortune. Not because they lack the willpower, not because they lack the intelligence, because they lack the sound plan. And then because they treat failure as final. All right, we've made it to step 6 on our road to riches. Organized planning, which is what Mr. Hill refers to as the crystallization of desire into action. Mr. Hill says, you have learned that everything man creates or acquires begins in the form of desire. That desire is taken on the first lap of its journey, from the abstract to the concrete, into the workshop of the imagination, where plans for its transitions are created and organized. Last week we talked about repeating your statement of desire. A part of your statement of desire is for you to articulate the plan through the use of your imagination. This step, organized planning, speaks to how to actually develop the plan. Mr. Hill writes, life's greatest tragedy consists of men and women who earnestly try and fail. People are not successful because they're not trying. They are trying. You have to have a sound plan for your success. No matter how hard you try, no matter how much you want it, you cannot drive a car from the shores of the United States to the shores of Europe. You must create a plan that allows you to transport yourself over water. And many of us have plans in which we are building cars when we need a plane. As I said in the earlier episode, it's not about how hard you work, it's about how smart you work. The other reason people who are earnestly working fail and are not successful is because they treat failure as the end. The key is that you treat failure as a temporary defeat. And the lesson that you learn from failure is that your plan was faulty or incomplete. It's not that you have a faulty desire or a faulty chief aim. But most of us treat the failure of our plan, whatever it may be, as evidence that what we desire we really cannot have. And we stop there. Mr. Hill tells us, millions of men go through life in misery and poverty because they lack a sound plan through which to accumulate the fortune. Not because they lack the willpower, not because they lack the intelligence, because they lack the sound plan. And then because they treat failure as final. He tells us, no man is ever whipped until he quits in his own mind. In order to reach that of which you desire, you have to accept temporary defeat. You have to recognize that it will not be a smooth road. It will not be a direct road. You have to have the ability that when your plan does not work, you have to create a new plan. You have to adapt or adjust the current plan. What you don't do is stop. You keep going. As Mr. Hill tells us, no follower of this philosophy can reasonably expect to accumulate a fortune without experiencing temporary defeat. When defeat comes, accept it as a signal that your plans are not sound. Rebuild your plans and set sail once more towards your coveted goal. If you give up before your goal has been reached, you are a quitter. A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. I'm sure you've heard that before. A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. And that's what we mean. You keep your eye on your chief aim, on that which you truly desire. And you keep working till you develop the right plan to get you there. You do not give up on that which you truly want. In the 6-step organized plan, he engages and introduces us to a mastermind. He tells us no individual has sufficient experience, education, native ability, and knowledge to ensure the accumulation of a great fortune without the cooperation of other people. In other words, You will not achieve your chief aim, that which you truly desire, without the help of others. Specifically, without the help of others refining and helping you develop your plan. You can do this in a mastermind where you bring other like-minded people together. And it's very important. It must be like-minded people. That's one. Also, you must have something you can give to them. You're not in a mastermind just to receive. You're also in a mastermind to give to them. Just remember, when you use your mastermind group, whatever plan is conceived and created may not be the final plan. You may have to go back to your mastermind to refine the plan, get a better plan. Now, some of you are naturally stuck in this view of, in order to make money, you need money. I need money to invest. I need money to go to school. I need money in order to make the money I want to make. But Mr. Hill tells us that's folly. He says, some people foolishly believe that only money can make money. That's not true. Desire, transmuted into its monetary equivalent through the principles laid down here, is the agency through which money is made. You don't need to start with money to make money. There are plenty of self-made successful people who quote-unquote came from nothing. What they were rich in was the desire, the focus, the imagination, the persistence, none of which requires money. Mr. Hill says, money of itself is nothing but inert matter. It cannot move, think, or talk, but it can hear. And the man who desires it, call it to come. Do not stop yourself from beginning your road to your personal riches because you don't have money or you don't have what you believe is sufficient. Do not quit on yourself. But Mr. Hill also, I thought it's very interesting part of the chapter, speaks of leadership. And you wonder why leadership is important in this chapter when it comes to organized plan. And I believe the reason leadership is important is because most likely, in order for you to achieve what it is you truly want, will require you to lead others. You will ultimately be the visionary. You will be required, most likely, you will have to lead others. He says, most great leaders begin in the capacity of followers. They became great leaders because they were intelligent followers. You've heard it before. Said a different way. Often the best leaders made the best followers because they paid attention to what the leader was doing and what people he was leading. They reacted. They learned the good and they learned the not so good. And this is a skill that you will have to develop in order to achieve the ultimate goal, the ability to lead others. He tells us the man who can follow a leader efficiently will likely become the best leader. And he gives you what he believes is 11 major attributes of leadership. But he does tell you the best way to lead is to be a leader by consent, not by force. So in other words, just because you're the boss doesn't mean you have to remind your employees every day that you're the boss. Cooperative effort is consistent and ultimately more financially rewarding. Mr. Hill also writes about what he called the 31 major causes of failure. He suggests that we compare ourselves to those 31. He says go over that list to see what attributes you may have so that you can then work on eliminating those attributes. As he directs us, as you go over the list, check yourself by it, point by point, for the purpose of discovering how many of these causes of failure stand between you and success. Self-analysis is critical. Self-awareness is critical on your road to success. Check yourself next to it. Be honest with yourself about it. Because remember, this is about getting better. This is about growing. This is not about judging. You're not judging yourself. You're becoming more aware of who you are. And as he suggests, you may employ someone who knows you well. Employ their opinion. Employ your mastermind to determine if they see some of these attributes that you may not, that you may have a blind spot for. Each one can be the difference between you being successful, reaching your goal, and you being the tragedy of the 98% of people who never reach their goal. And finally, I think this is a very important part of the mindset that's required of how you view yourself when you go after what you want. It's the distinction between how you value yourself, your self-worth, and how you value what it is you produce. And often we confuse the two. Mr. Hill writes, it's one thing to want money. Everyone wants more. But it's something entirely different to be worth more. That's what we're doing in these 13 weeks to becoming rich. We are creating the value. We are creating the plan that will create the value of your service or your merchandise that will ultimately create the amount of money you want to attain. He says your value is established entirely by your ability to render useful service or your capacity to induce others to render such service. So said in a different way, your value, your ability to attain your riches will be determined by what value you provide for others. It won't be determined by what you think you're worth. It's going to be determined by what the value is that you provide to others. And if you have a candid conversation, that often goes two ways. Some people overvalue what they provide, and many others undervalue what they provide and use it as a measuring stick of their own personal worth. This is not about your personal worth. It's about what it is that you are producing, what it is that you are creating, what it is that you are providing. It is not about your personal worth as a human being. So remember, increase the worth of your service, the worth of your product. The homework for this week is I'd like you to go back to the mastermind section and follow Mr. Hill's instructions on how to develop your mastermind. Allow yourself a group of as many people as you need for creation and carry of your plan. Decide what advantages and benefits you may offer the individual members of your group. Arrange to meet members of your mastermind and maintain perfect harmony between yourself and every member of your mastermind. So let's develop a list of people you think you would want in your mastermind and begin to reach out to them. Until then, see you next week. They became